Okay, I think just letting this thing reboot. All right, I think we're live. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome and surprise, surprise Facebook Live interview. I have some very exciting guests with me here today. Welcome back and good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're watching from. My name is Jake Sussman. And for those of you who don't know, I'm a dyslexia and ADHD influencer, an entrepreneur, and founder of Superpower Consulting, home of the Discover Superpowers Mentorship Program. Now, since quarantine started, I've been interviewing many different people from all over the world, from parents to industry leaders to doctors to business leaders, and also people just like you and I. But the cool thing, though, is that we all have at least one thing in common. It's that we, at some point, have struggled with the way we learned, have been misunderstood for how we learn, and have overcome obstacles with how we learn, whether it's in school or professionally. And I think it's been very awesome to hear just how amazing our community is with sharing. And with that being said, I want to just, if you're watching this, please just share where you're watching from, because I got to say, there's nothing cooler than community and the power of sharing. And when you share something, honestly, someone else out there may be experiencing the same thing. So I really encourage you to share. This is a platform for community. Now, my friends, I have two very special guests with me, Mike Jones and Tiffany James. Mike Jones is passionate about helping with dyslexia and changing the way it's perceived in schools and education law. After qualifying to assess and teach those with dyslexia, Mike spent 10 years teaching children with adults before starting Nessy Learning, an award-winning software platform used worldwide in over 10,000 schools. Nessy Learning creates multi-sensory programs and apps that helps children learn to read, spell, and improve numerical skills using proven Orton-Gillingham methods, gamification, and individualized instruction. Now, Tiffany James, who I have invited on before, she's so great. Tiffany James is the Vice President of Nessy America and is certified instructional language teacher. She's certified a reading specialist and qualified dyslexia screener. She has over 25 years of teaching experience. This is a power team. Welcome.
Welcome, Jake. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Wow, this is so awesome. Now, we're in a very cool time because it's a time of transition, and you're an ed tech platform. Now, tell me a little bit about how Nessy, and why don't you share with our community what Nessy is? I know I gave a little bit about it, but what is Nessy and what's Nessy doing now?
Well, where to start? What is Nessy? It's a platform, a learning platform in the cloud, and everything is designed to help people with dyslexia. So we follow the science of reading. So we're always updating. We're always looking at new research that comes out, and we're creating new resources, always trying to improve it. So we've got a training module to help teachers and classroom assistants to understand about dyslexia. We have our main program, which uses phonics and structured synthetic phonics, has phonology and phonemic awareness, and goes all the way through to a very advanced level with fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. And it's a monster of a program. And that's why we called it Nessy. I mean, it's just so huge. It's kids with dyslexia, they need so much overlearning. So to stop it getting boring, you have to have games. And those games have to be in a structure. And then once you've got those key blocks put together, then it opens the door and they can learn. And so I've gone off track, but basically I was working at a dyslexia center that my mum had started after teaching me. And the techniques, the games, the ideas were amazing. And I thought, well, this needs to be on the internet so that kids around the world can benefit from it. Yeah. And that's how we started. And we did the first dyslexia app in the world when smartphones started coming out. We've been firsts in lots of things. So we were the first online program for dyslexia. I think it was way, way back, because it was before broadband even. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago. And teachers didn't want it. They wanted CDs because they didn't have fast enough.
Not that long ago. I remember when we had the floppy disk. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
And now we just continued adding into the platform, and we had a study skills program for older students. We had a math program, and we're redeveloping the math program right now with Chris Woodin.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you know Chris Woodin?
I've heard
yes. Oh, he's an absolute genius. I mean, he is like the dyscalculia guru, and he's fantastic. He works out of the school called the Landmark School in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chris is absolutely brilliant, and he's been working with us for a couple of years on the redo of Nessy numbers, and it's going to be called Nessy Number Sense, because there's nobody that knows how to teach kids that learn differently. So our dyslexic kids, our dyscalculia kids, teach math to them. He just knows how to do it.
Amazing. Landmark does such a great job reaching.
Yes.
I have to say, I went to the Foreman School, which is a boarding school in Connecticut, and to look at how these schools are modeling themselves, and we're seeing something very cool in America, where our schools for high functioning learning disabilities, they're taking their models and they're creating these online training classrooms for teachers to lead teacher training workshops for our schools that are in at-risk communities, in vulnerable communities. And it's amazing because if you put the label of dyslexia aside for a minute in ADHD, what these schools and what your platform is accomplishing is a new way to reach human beings, a new way to spark kids to want to learn. And that's something that we always hear about. And I'm really interested in your take on this, because I always hear, and I'm very passionate about this myself, where we talk about reading and dyslexia and structured literacy and all of that, which is so important, but that's the destination, right? There's a whole journey that has to happen before that. And that's creating this willingness to learn, wanting to learn the content. And I just love what Nessy's doing with creating this gamification. And so tell me about that a little bit.
Well, we believe learning happens when it's fun. So we have a different approach. So the Orton-Gillingham programs, I didn't mean to cut you off. The Orton-Gillingham program is a great program, and there are a lot of really good ones out there. But the unique thing about Pat, Mike's mother, is she found, I hope he doesn't mind that me saying this, but she found him difficult to teach. So she took the Orton-Gillingham program, and she decided it was pretty dry. It's wonderful though. It's a wonderful program, but it's for him, it wasn't the best fit for her son. So she wanted to make it all game-based and fun, and almost teach him in a way that he didn't even realize she was teaching him. And she was unable to lock the code of language for him that way. And so that's the foundation of Nessy. And the Bristol Dyslexia Center next door, in the building next door, which was Pat's original center, which is still going today, still uses all those methods and has hundreds and hundreds or thousands of kids. I don't know how many kids have gone through there, but hundreds at a time come through and are taught that way. But then Mike took it and made it.
Yeah, I think the importance about technology and having a resource on the cloud is that, okay, you're never going to get better than a really good, experienced, inspirational teacher, but there aren't enough teachers. Right. There's no way enough teachers to cope with them. And what about people that live away from cities? And they've got no hope of being taught. And that's where technology can disrupt, and it can provide an affordable solution for people. Everyone should have access to an Orton-Gillingham influence program, the explicit teaching that works. But many schools are resistant to that because, first of all, they don't have an understanding about dyslexia, but also they're worried about the cost implications. How can they possibly help all the children if they start screening them all and the only way to do that is with an affordable solution. That's where, if you've got a specialist, you can supplement that specialist with technology within a school. If you don't have a specialist, then technology is really offering a change, because it's learning all the time. I mean, machine learning we're looking into at the moment, but you can gather huge amounts of data, and if you ask the right questions, you can really improve how students learn.
Wow, it's so amazing. I mean, it's innovation. That's innovation right there. That's taking something that could have a bad connotation, bad rep, this machine learning, and like learning data and collection. But what we're doing though is we're using this data as a way to learn about how our kids' behaviors. And it's the thing that's not really taught in a textbook. You can't really see that. And the best way to see that is through a platform like yours. So amazing. Now, I mean, you're in 10,000 schools now in 100
or
so countries.
It's actually 34,000 schools at the moment and about 650,000 students, but it fluctuates really depending on different factors.
So what's that like knowing when you wake up every morning knowing that you're reaching these many kids? And was this something you ever could have imagined?
No, but it's not enough, because we just hear stories of kids that just can't get the right help, and it's heartbreaking. And we really want it to be available to everyone. And if children are going through school without getting the right sort of help, it can be really damaging and crushing. And that shouldn't happen when we know what works.
Right, right. It's been happening for too long. We hear so many of these stories. I'm sick of it. We hear the stories. I mean, we hear the celebrities talking about it. We hear our kids talking about it. We hear our parents talking about it. This has been happening for so long. And now it's time that we change. It's time that we do something about it. You know, it goes far beyond our own classrooms. I mean, you're doing work in developing nations as well. Is that correct? With India and in African countries. What are you doing down there?
We're excited to work with, we have some great partnerships around the world. In Africa, we are partnering with a great organization, and a friend of mine just released a book called The Dyslexia Bible. And do you want to get the door? Do you mind if Mike gets the doorbell?
Yeah,
We're so sorry. They're very
Yeah.
persistent. They just keep ringing. So sorry about that. The joys of working from home.
Hey, absolutely.
But anyway, she's written a book called The Dyslexia Bible. She's absolutely fantastic. We're partnering with her. It's the Cadet Academy in Nigeria. And they are partnering with us, and they are adapting our teacher training for the African market. So it's going to be specific to Africa. And we're working with a great organization in India as well, called I for Inclusion, and they are also adapting it for the Indian market. So we're really excited about both of those. And then we have partnerships in other parts of the world. We are going to participate in the Congress, the International Congress for the Ibero-American world. So my Spanish is not up to par, so we're going to have to find someone to help sit with me and translate. And that's a great organization that works with 34 different Spanish-speaking and Portuguese-speaking countries. So we're working with them. And we're working in Australia, and we're really, I told you a little bit about that. Mike and I, we love what we do with Nessy, and then we're also very passionate about just helping where we can. And we were delighted to partner with Spelfabet and Dyslexia Victoria Support. And they are giving, we are giving Nessy licenses, and they have chosen the schools, and they've chosen some schools in some disadvantaged areas, economically disadvantaged areas. And these are schools that have made a commitment to learn about the science of reading and remove most of the whole language instruction, and switch over to learning more about the science of reading, and being led by the IDA and the Ausfeld in Australia. So those are great organizations that focus on science, and these schools want to do that, and they don't really have the money, and we want to help. So we're giving licenses and support for all of their students in these schools that they've chosen. So we're really excited about that.
So that is so amazing. And again, for our viewers watching this, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions. I'm watching the comment feed here. There's a little bit of a delay, so just definitely don't hesitate. This is your chance to ask some questions to some really inspiring leaders, paving the way to reach our dyslexic kids and kids with ADHD and other language-based learning and attention challenges. So this is a pretty crazy time right now, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it's really wild. What's your like perspective, being in this space, working with kids, being in education? Do you think this is an opportunity for our schools to move into a new direction with reaching our kids? Like, could this be the moment, do you think?
There's a lot happening now with the science of reading. I mean, there's a lot of people that are interested in it and kind of pushing for that. And the world is certainly shaken up. That's always a great time for change when we're pretty much turned upside down, aren't we? So.
When you started the video, you talked about the importance of community.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with you there. It's when a lone parent has to go into school and fight for their child and fight for the support that a child should be getting, they face a really tough battle. They're often faced with 8, 9 professionals that are all saying, we're the experts, you don't know what you're talking about. And we're going to say what's right for your child and what isn't. And there's a culture of blaming the parent as well. The parent often feels guilty for not having done something earlier, but that parent doesn't need to be alone with community. And I believe it's community that has driven the changes that we're seeing. So there's an academic community that have found a voice, that are really inspiring the science of reading. And there's a parent community which has led to lots of states passing legislation for screening. That is a really important step. And from that screening, we need to make sure that there's the right intervention, that once those children are identified, they get the right support early on. We've known since the 90s that early intervention is key. Between the ages of, before the age of 7, I mean, those kids need to be screened, but then they need to be helped. And if you don't help them at that age, the outcome is terrifying. They're never going to catch up. Right. But if you can help them at that age, wow, it flips. And suddenly they're on track. So there's no excuse not for doing it. But it's community that's going to drive that change. That's what we've been seeing. That's why it's so important for people to connect, to join their local groups, because when your voice is put with other people, that's when it really shouts louder.
Okay, so speaking of community, this is a question that's really directed to Mike. This is something, as you know, there's a lot of women in this space. And I've not seen enough men in this space. And when it comes to community, to me, I think of team. I think of partnership. I think when you have when you have a father and a mother coming together to advocate for their child, both on the same page. I've heard, we work, my mentoring organization, we work with over 50 kids from around the world. And a lot of times the dads have a hard time understanding and embracing their kids' dyslexia or ADHD. So what do you think could be a good message for our dads out there, for our men out there, to get them involved? Like, why is it important for dads and men to get involved in this space, in this work with understanding dyslexia and ADHD?
That's a tough question. I think dyslexia is nothing to be ashamed of. And I think that needs to be understood, that it is part of who you are, that it's not a fault. I mean, it does make school tough and finding your keys and stuff like that, but it's just part of who you are.
Yeah.
And I think embracing that, accepting that idea is an important first step. I think why aren't there so many men involved in education. I don't know, maybe it's that teachers' salaries aren't high enough. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know why the space evolved that way, you know, with mothers kind of being the.
Well, I think, I'm sorry, I think more my question is less why are they not involved, more why should they be involved with their kids, right? Because I always hear moms going to the IEP meetings. Where are the dads? Where are the dads, right? Where is the team? And I always share this with the families that I work with because I'm like, there's nothing more powerful than a unit walking in that room.
Oh, yes.
And talking about their kid and saying, how can we work together? Because when there's not that, and I share this with guys, I know that it's hard to like understand the emotion. It's very emotional. It's like a lot of times, at least for me, I was 3 grade levels behind in reading, forced to read out loud in class in 6th grade. Okay, my parents pulled me out of school. I had very little memory of my middle school years, and I didn't want to think about it because emotion was too emotional for me. I didn't want to think about it. It was too painful. But funny enough, with this work that I've been doing with mentoring kids, I've had closure on my childhood almost. And and my memory is coming back. And I just know there's so many people out there that don't want to. In moms too, this is now going both ways. It's like there's this resistance of you see your kids going through the pain. You're triggered because it reminds you of little you and what you've been through. And now you're doing anything you can to make sure your kids don't go through that. But sometimes that can actually be damaging. Are you following me with that? Like when I say damaging, I mean parents not wanting to embrace their kids' dyslexia. Yeah,
I mean that is a problem. And you know, as when I used to work more with families, did a different kind of work, working more one-on-one with families. I mean, you did encounter that quite a bit. You know, families that just weren't quite there yet. They weren't ready to embrace that this is a difference. I mean, it was something as often as a practitioner, you could help walk them through it. And maybe it's like the work you do, you can kind of coach them through it. It takes time, and then they begin to maybe accept it more and be more willing to step in and advocate and fight for their child.
Yeah,
I think it does boil down to feeling that there might be something wrong with your child.
So you think it boils down to shame, maybe, like feeling ashamed?
I hesitate to say that, but I think that might be part of it. But I'd like to pick up on something that you mentioned about your own experiences.
Please.
So it kind of resonated with me because I kind of feel the same way, really. I don't seem to have a good memory for what happened in the past. I just forget stuff so easily. I could read a book and completely forget it. And see a movie and completely forget it. So I forget a lot about school. But I was in a position where I really didn't want to go anywhere near a school. I had so many unpleasant memories of it, and actually being involved in the world of dyslexia has been a very cathartic experience for me. Telling my own story helped me come to terms with it and realize how I had been damaged by my time at school. I was ashamed myself of having dyslexia. I didn't like to tell anyone I had dyslexia for a long time. And when I came to accept that it was part of me, and I think that was a big healing moment. So maybe that's why other fathers feel that way. They don't really understand it.
Yeah.
I agree with what you said, though. When if they can come to terms with this and they walk into those IEP meetings as a team, I mean, that is a very powerful thing as a unit. You know, that really can. That's really the best thing for the child.
Yeah.
If they can do that.
Maybe also parents blame themselves. Sometimes they think that they don't want to accept. Maybe that they think they've done the wrong thing. They've let their child down somehow. When they haven't at all. I mean, the only way they could possibly do that is by ignoring the issue of dyslexia. So they'll be okay. sort it out.
Yeah, but if their parents are going to an IEP meeting or going to, talk to someone like, have their child talk to someone like Jake, or these are parents that are trying to find the answers, aren't they? So they're not running from the problem. They're looking for
One of the parents, or one of the parents.
at least one of the parents.
Yeah, and that's why I think one of my focuses for this year is really going to be helping to bridge this gap, because I've been seeing too much. It's too one-sided of like, I'm seeing like one spouse, or one parent, not the other, in it together, and it's been bothering me. And I really I think that there's a way for us to just say it's okay. Every human being learns differently. Everyone.
Yeah.
There's, just because you have dyslexia doesn't mean you're like this anomaly. I mean, 1 out of 5 people have it, but besides that, everyone learns differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately though, our schools, and this is where we have a huge systemic change now that we're working at, which is, how do we shift this culture of, here's something else too, and I'm kind of switching the topic, but I think this is really interesting because you are an ed tech platform. One of the biggest lessons that COVID-19 has taught me, being in quarantine, is this idea that we can't live a life of certainty. We've been so trying to live a predictable life pre-COVID-19. With wanting to know everything that's going to happen before it happens. It's like you study for an exam. Kids are trained now to know that if they get this amount right, they're going to get an A, which is perfect. But life, there's no such thing as perfect, right? We have to adapt. We have to transition. In America, 30% of college freshmen drop out of school every year in the US. Come on. And could it be that we need to be looking at how kids can better adapt to change versus remaining in a certain world, or thinking that that's what reality really is?
Flexibility. Yeah,
I think we live in a time of change anyway with technology. It's like Google announcing they were disrupting the higher education market with their own degree system and things like that. As technology becomes more powerful and more assistive, it can take us to whole new places. And I think the strange thing about the pandemic is that everyone's been locked away in their little bubbles, and they've had to rely increasingly on technology.
Yeah, it's so important. So I think, look, there's a lot of people watching this right now from all over the place, from moms, dads, educators, parents of kids in elementary school all the way through college. And some parents are just learning that their child has dyslexia. So what could be some good tips, or what are some words of wisdom that we can share with our community, with our parents watching this that are just seeing this or learning about this for the first time? What can we share with them that can help them either lift them up or help them know that this isn't, there's light at the end of the tunnel, really?
Don't take that one.
You start.
Well, I mean, the first thing you always start with is your child isn't broken. There's nothing. Your child isn't a faulty. There's not a faulty unit. There's not a broken child. This is a child that learns differently, and that's okay. And everyone in the world is a mixture of strengths and weaknesses, and we just have to start from there. They need to be instructed in the way they learn, and we need to try to encourage the people around them to be supportive, and try to find people around them that can mentor them, coach them, teach them with an understanding of dyslexia and the way that people learn, and then go from there.
As parents, need to find out as much as they can about dyslexia and explain dyslexia to their child, so they understand that it's nothing to be ashamed of, that they can learn, and they need to join a community, have their voice, join the voice of other people. That's the way you're going to get change. And that community can help you in your battle to help your child.
Yes.
And that's super important.
That's so awesome. Now, do you know any good resources where our parents can go? I know Nessy's website has some great resources on there.
We do. Can I mention one more thing? Because you said
Yeah.
something, it made me think of,
Please.
I don't know, do you know Clarice Jackson, who's a fantastic advocate,
Yeah.
Clarice? And I was looking, there's a quote from Clarice Jackson here, and it says, dyslexia is an obstacle to overcome, not a problem without a solution. And I think those were some of her words of wisdom for parents. And I just think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Not a problem without a solution.
Websites, information, what would you say?
Oh, well, there's a lot of great ones. We have, the Yale Center for Dyslexia is a great one. Susan Barton is a great one. Reading Rockets. I send people to Reading Rockets all the time. They have a lot of great resources. Understood is a good one.
Nessy.com, and there's loads on YouTube. I mean, really good videos.
I'm excited for Nessy. I'm excited for Nessy to start coming to America. It's going to be very exciting.
Tiffany's made a great book. It's called What I Need, and it encourages children to become self-advocates so that they understand and they can tell the teachers what it is that they need to help them succeed at school. And I've got one called Dyslexia Explained, which is just a simple, very short way of explaining about dyslexia, the difficulties you're going to have, the strategies you can use, and just so you understand what it is that's this thing that's stopping you reading. Also,
Michael the film, come on.
Yeah, Michael the film.
Come on, that one. Left and right.
That's on.
You have to watch it if you haven't seen it. Where can people find it?
It's on. You can get it for free still on YouTube. It's MICAL because Mike couldn't spell his own name when he was a child, so he was spelling his name MICAL. So we decided, and he was really mocked and made fun of by other children because he couldn't spell his name. So that's why we called the movie Michael. But you can get it on YouTube. It's also on Amazon Prime. So if you have an Amazon account, you can watch it there.
On YouTube, it's on Silver Prince Pictures.
Silver Prince Pictures on Amazon.
That's so awesome. My parents. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just going to say that if I hadn't got that help, I'm sure I would have left school just illiterate. I mean, I couldn't do anything. I was 8 or 9 years old and just making no progress. So I think I was very fortunate. I mean, my mom was a good teacher. It was tough times teaching me because I was so argumentative, but I appreciate it now. So I think for parents out there, it can be a tough call, home educating, but believe me, your kids will thank you when they get older.
I want to give a shout out though to all of our parents though.
Yeah.
Really everyone. And I know that we were talking about dads here, but really a shout out to moms, dads, grandparents, aunts, uncles, the whole family. Because this is a time of where everyone had to come together, everyone had to adjust, everyone had to get out of what's comfortable. And I know it's challenging. I know that it wasn't easy. We got kids running around all over the place while you're trying to work. Kids are, messing up the cereal cabinet, whatever they're doing. And you know what? Kudos to you. You are.
Yes, absolutely.
Seriously. And it's funny because that's a little taste of what it's like to be a teacher, and our teachers need some serious love. And,
they do.
And I think that we're really onto something. And I just wanted to say that people commenting on here are just, and if you're watching this, let's give our teachers and parents a shout out by liking this, because it's really important that they know. And we have people commenting, just sharing some of their stories, saying that someone said, I always cry after IEP meetings. I don't want my son to suffer the same ways I did. Thank you for saying that.
Oh gosh.
You had someone else that said IEP meetings are just part of it. Don't stop fighting for what you feel your kid needs. Cry after it and wipe your face, breathe in and keep the fight. That is love. Is your child happy, healthy, kind, adaptable? Those are things that matter the most. Your kid will learn his/her way in their own time. We parents have the misconception of that the kids have to know certain things by certain ages. when we live under that pressure. Giving them confidence is more important because everyone is a genius in their own way. This is sharing. This is sharing. I mean, that really, thank
Great
you.
comments there.
Yeah, and thank you. And also Amanda shared here too, a thought on about parents working as a team, talking about how two parents losing several hours of wages to attend an IEP meeting could likely be a reason. Definitely makes sense.
That's a good point.
Definitely makes sense. COVID has made IEP meetings more accessible by going virtual. It has a lot of advocates to assist parents in a lot more meetings. That is a small positive that has come from COVID. Amanda, great share. That is so
Great
true.
comment.
So again, this is what it's all about. And I really want to thank you. I really want to thank you both. And I know I've asked Tiffany this question when she was on, but like, I want to ask you this. And Tiffany, I would just love to hear yours again also. And I always like asking this question. It's this idea of superpowers and what is your superpower? And the reason why I'm going to ask this is because there is a little bit of debate over superpowers and do we associate dyslexia LD with superpowers? And honestly, my whole thing on this is that when we hear a hero's journey, you know, you can have a parent and a child both watch the same hero movie like Superman and both get something different out of it. And it's less about the super ability that you have, it's more about the journey. That's something that we often forget, that Superman is just Clark Kent. Spider-Man is just Peter Parker, kid misunderstood, bullied by other kids. Parents don't know how to communicate to them well because they don't want them to feel different, but they are different and they don't know why. They feel isolated and alone. They go down this whole path of self-discovery to the point of where they embrace who they are. From that moment, they can go on and save the world. That to me is the story of a child with learning attention challenges, someone who doesn't really fit into the typical mold of what school and what people think, whatever normal is, whatever that word is, honestly. But you know what? That's what makes these kids unique and amazing, is because we do look at the world differently. And that's the only way change is going to come. That's why when we can finally embrace what our true strengths are, we can go out and do what makes us happy. It doesn't have to be just saving the world, but it could be if you do the thing that makes you happy. So that's why I love asking this question, what is your superpower? And Mike, I mean, if I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but.
I'm not convinced that dyslexia gives you some super ability that no one else has. I think that there are certainly some people with dyslexia who are extraordinarily talented and have some amazing skill, possibly to do with their dyslexia. I don't know, there's no science behind that I'm aware of. But you do get a lot of dyslexics in certain fields. Okay, for instance, pattern recognition. I've heard of a lot of high functioning people with dyslexia who are very good at pattern recognition. And personally, I have lots of ideas. I'm a very creative person. I just get ideas, ping, 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 which is all over the place in my head. And maybe that's to do with dyslexia, I don't know. But I like to think it is, because I've got loads of other things which seem to be faulty. So I can't remember stuff. I forget things. Unless I do it straight away, it just floats out of my head. But then I also find that I look out of the window and my brain sort of goes into a whirring sort of think mode, and I space out a bit, and then I just get loads of ideas. Is that to do with dyslexia? I don't know. But when the whole superpowers thing, I think it's so important to give children who are struggling at school something for them to focus on that they are good at.
Yes.
And that is why we use the term superpowers, because you see children who are incredibly talented at ballet, sports, art, or whatever it is they're doing. But they've got something they're good at. And sometimes that's taken away for them to do more reading and spelling because they're not catching up with their peers. It's terrible. Don't do that. Yeah. Let your kid shine at what they're good at. And so I think that's a really positive message that can come out of the superpowers thing. Let your child do what they're good at. Sometimes they don't know what they're good at. And there's no rush. Maybe you're just good at being a nice person. Maybe you just haven't found what you're good at yet. Don't worry about it. You'll get there.
I can't follow up with that one.
I don't either, because that was good.
I can't. If anyone has any thoughts on that, please let me know. That was like, I think you nailed that one on the head. I'm done.
I agree with that.
We're over. Show's over. No, but it's so true. It's so true. It's we're so focused on what we're not good at.
Yeah.
We're so obsessed as a society to fix our problems and to strive for this perfection,
yeah.
Perfect life, whatever that is. But what people are missing is that confidence is not found in what we're not good at. It's found in what we are good at. And confidence creates momentum to then open up the doors to obstacles, to overcoming an obstacle, to tackling that big hill. And that's exactly what you're saying. And my friends watching this, these are the minds that are behind Nessy. I mean, it's just so good to know that there are organizations like yours and minds like yours that are behind something like Nessy that is so powerful and impactful and life-changing for these kids, and giving them access to a tool that can give them the strength and the confidence to want to read and to want to learn. And that only comes from the morals of those building it. That's the only way, because that thing doesn't exist unless you're making it exist. So that it's so good to know that you two are out there doing that. So really, I want to thank you both for coming. And yeah, and do you have anything else you'd like to just mention, to say, Tiffany, Mike?
I was just going to say that, well, Nessy's a team effort. There's about 30 of us. We're only a small company, but you don't need to be super big when you're a tech company. And everyone works so hard. We've got a lot of people with dyslexia who work for the company, and everyone's driven to just help kids that need, and parents that need that help. So it's kind of you to give us all the credit, but it's a team effort.
I mean, that is the kind of the thread of kindness that runs through the company. I would say that is the one thing that everyone that works for us has in common, is they all have this desire to make a difference for kids, help kids learn to read, help dyslexic kids. And like Mike said, we have a lot of dyslexics that work for us. Not everyone is dyslexic, because by golly, we need people to be able to proofread. We need somebody, we need people to be able to correct our spelling and make sure we haven't.
But you know what? That's the best thing about being in this space, because no one's really checking. So.
Oh, they do check sometimes. But yeah, but yes, so there are a lot of different people that work, doing a lot of different jobs, but everyone has that one thing in common, is that they really have a heart for kids. We're very thankful to have our team. They're really good.
That's so wonderful. That's so wonderful. Well, again, really thank you both so much for coming. And if you are watching this, if you are coming to the IDA conference on Friday, please come to the first general session. I'm opening up the conference. Very excited.
We want to see that.
Yes, please come. Okay, everyone. So really, thank you again. And I look forward to having you back on.
It was nice to talk to you today.
Thank you very much, Jake.
Yeah, thanks for having, and thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the work that you do for kids and inspiring children and inspiring their parents. We appreciate.
And my job is to make our educators and parents' lives easier by giving kids the tools to learn how to communicate. So we all kind of work hand in hand. So it's very important what everyone's doing.
It's valuable work that you're doing, and I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind. Thank you. All right, everybody. Nice seeing you. And for those of you joining, thank you again. Have a nice lunch, dinner, breakfast, wherever you're watching from.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.